And howdy, everybody. Howdy, Ashley. Thanks for joining
Hi,
me.
you're welcome.
Golly, it's very nice of you to go through the trouble of wearing the same clothes today.
No, it was a lot of trouble.
Okay, so this portion of the Living Temple, so welcome to the Living Temple. This portion of the Living Temple, I want to talk about long fasting, not short fasting, but long fasting. Now, a very few of you are aware I just did a long fast. By long fast, I mean no food, liquids only, which I had to modify partway through to include other types of liquids, but definitely no solids. And it was a rough process. I attempted to do and did a 40-day fast. Had a few people giving me advice on it, as well as digging for information. Now, most of you or many of you are aware that I did a 17-day fast where I did no food and I was doing only teas at the time, along with a bit of apple cider vinegar mixed with some apple juice to help cleanse out my liver and kidneys. I cannot recall the exact chain of events, but around that same time, I went through an episode of edema, which is a swelling. Some people would call it a pitted edema, but it's a swelling of the feet and lower extremities that when you push in your finger and remove it, it stays dented in, stays pitted. 10 days into this most recent fast, this 40-day fast, after searching on the best ways, the best foods to reintroduce to start eating again, and how to do it correctly, I finally found information that, hey, lo and behold, guess what? When you start eating again after a long fast, you can kill yourself. Whoa. And one of the things you can kill yourself with is edema, right? Which turns into congestive heart failure. It's a symptom of congestive heart failure. So it's a very serious matter. And if we look scripturally, when Yeshua, Jesus, fasted for 40 days, he fasted off everything, right? Off foods and liquids is what we're told. And when he finished, he became hungry, and he also was ministered to by angels. That makes complete sense to me. Okay, so my goals were for this fast were to reset my internal systems, my body, my physical body, to work correctly, and also to do a lot of prayer over a lot of things, primarily the Tribal Lands Project, if you all are familiar with that. Now, I really wanted to get a clear message, on what's going on with that. And I did. It will happen. It just is happening on our Father's timeline. I know we want to hurry, but it's all on his timeline. So like I say, I started this fast very much the same way that I had the others, primarily with teas to provide various nutrients and to provide various cleansing functions, such as a dandelion tea. Also green tea, which is good for cleaning out your liver. And I was also doing the juice with the apple cider vinegar. to help with liver and gallbladder cleansing. It also has the benefit of cleaning out your kidneys as well. This time, though, the juice I was using was a lemon ginger echinacea juice that I bought commercially with minimal sugar added, and was using that. One of the issues you have with a long fast is your mouth will no longer make the enzymes to start breaking down food. Those enzymes, though, are also there to protect your teeth. Experiencing tooth pain is no fun. I learned that with the first 17-day fast. And one thing that helped was chewing gum to stimulate that. Another thing that helps is a swish of organic coconut oil, just to keep everything moist. Yeah. Moist. Okay. That you swish it around and get rid of it. The waking up in the middle of the night with such an intensely dry mouth is amazing. Like, I'm going to go look in the mirror and see if there's cheek skin or lip skin stuck to my teeth type.
Oh, wow.
Stuck. Yeah, it's really dry. Really dry. Really, really dry. About 12 or so days in, maybe 14 days, one of the things that happened is I was awakened at about 2:10 in the morning with an immense muscle cramp that I've never experienced before. And this particular muscle cramp was attempting to make my toes and my foot flex upward and touch my shin. It was very uncomfortable. It was also Sabbath. And I was determined not to buy anything that would help that on Sabbath. And the only thing we had available were some Epsom salts. Well, Epsom salts are a laxative if you ingest them in a certain dosage. So what I did, this worked for me, is I took a 1/4 teaspoon of the Epsom salts, which is a magnesium sulfate, mixed that up in a cup of water and drank it. And it took care of the cramping for the rest of the day. And at this point in my fast, this is where I modified, because after sunset, I ran to the store. I knew coconut water was high in potassium, so I got a bunch of that. And I also got these things called Genius protein drinks. Okay, so this is, even though it was a liquid, I see it as kind of cheating because there was a protein additive. But these things were fortified with a huge portion of magnesium. I don't remember exactly how much, but it was quite a bit. So for the remainder of the fast, like another 27 or 26 days, I would have these every so often. I was drinking the coconut water daily.
So would you take supplements during that time? Like tablets or things like that? No?
I take that back. I did no tablets, did no capsules, but I did get a supplement called 40,000 volts, which has a very high percentage of your RDA, recommended daily allowance of magnesium, and a tiny bit of the potassium, as well as other nutrients that are required daily. I'm not a big supplement person. I really like to get everything that my temple needs through eating it.
Yeah.
But I wasn't eating. So that kind of put me in a pickle. I was also still doing a lot of teas. At some point around the same period of time, I ran out of dandelion tea. So I went and got more dandelion tea. And after I got home, I realized that the previous dandelion tea had been dandelion flowers. And this one was roasted dandelion root. And it tasted so much better. It did. It really tasted so much better. Kind of a nutty flavor, almost like some coffees.
I feel like it has a licorice flavor.
To
To me,
possibly. It was tasty though. And also too, one of the things I wanted to stick with the keeping as much coming out of my liver as possible. I wanted to really work on my liver function. And one of the best things for your liver cleansing is black coffee. So I started drinking some coffee probably about day 25 or 30. I went and got fresh coffee. Now, coffee you have to look at very carefully, because if it's any sort of flavored coffee, they've added oil to it.
Yep.
It's not good. That those flavorings are not good.
Right.
That you really have to search and seek to find coffee that hasn't been tainted with anything.
Yeah.
And the quality of the oil doesn't matter. Just avoid it altogether if you can. So I started doing 1 cup of coffee a day, which was like a couple of tablespoons, I guess, of coffee into 1 cup. One of my big snowman cups.
And you said this was about day 30?
I was approaching around day 30. Now, prior up to this, cover your ears if you're squeamish, that I continued passing stuff until probably day 10. Now, I'm going to chalk that up to that's just crap, literally, stuck in your digestive tract.
Yeah.
Now, with the liver cleansing, that still led to things being passed in the draft, as Yeshua would say. Just a very horrific, toxic yellow, dark yellow, and which led me to believe it was from the kidney and the liver and the gallbladder flushing out. And it actually wasn't until also around 28 or 29 days that stopped, and anything that I was passing, either front or back, was clear. Maybe not totally clear, but like, not yellow. And with the introduction of the coffee, that like gave the liver and gallbladder this little extra boost for a couple of days. But then after that, it was good and clean, good and clear. And so then we got back when I finally hit day 40. And I whiled away the time watching all of these cooking shows. I spent quite a bit of time looking at cooking shows.
Yeah.
And thinking, okay, how can I make this or that? The big thing though was I was still focused on this, how to reintroduce food. Now, in all the searching, I only found one reference source for how to come off of a long fast. It was a dude that did a video on YouTube, And he couldn't find the information anywhere either. And he finally had to dig into actual medical journals to find the answer. And basically it was, reintroduce nutritious liquids like broths first, followed by easy to digest and low bloat foods. And he recommended a website called with something called the FOD map. And the FOD map basically it was designed for people that have IBS, right? Irritable bowel syndrome. And it has a list of foods don't eat and a list of foods to eat. No way is it a biblically guided list, right? So, like some of the approved things are like pork and shellfish. Yuck. Anyways, a lot of mushrooms on there too. Yes, I know people argue, yum, yum. Anyways, that it was very helpful. The first thing I had was vegetable broth. And after the first mug of that, my energy levels skyrocketed like you wouldn't believe. Just amazing. The recommendation is to reintroduce foods over 1/4 of the time period that you fasted. So basically they're saying like 10 days to reintroduce these foods. Nobody here did that. I did a couple of days of just vegetable broth, and then started reintroducing easy to process stuff like baby spinach, which was helpful. The list is very strange because like some beans it says don't eat, and other beans it says eat.
Yeah.
Like broccoli is on the don't eat list, but cauliflower is on the eat list. Okay. It didn't make sense.
Yeah.
So I went very cautiously with what I was eating and looked at how it was affecting me. And it was a big plus. On the spiritual side, in the days of the 30s, I would wake up, bless you, I would wake up in the early mid-morning and 12 to 3 a.m. and just have fascinating prayer conversations. And they were very visual as well. I would highly recommend it to anybody. Let's see. There was I don't know, something to do with reintroduction of the food, but I don't remember exactly what it was. So, what blanks did I leave besides thousands of them? What questions do you have?
Yeah, I was wondering, did your body at some point accept the fasting, and how long did that take to get to that point? If
it actually didn't take too long. According to the sources, what happens is after a pretty short period of time, I want to say like 24 to 36 hours, your body will automatically go into ketosis. Keto, right? You hear about the keto diet and start living off of stored fats. That's something else that happened. We didn't have a bathroom scale. About 12 or 14 days in, I bought one and noticed no effect on the scale, but was able to pull my pants up to where they're supposed to be instead of being forced down to plumber crackville, and able to increasingly tighten my belt. And it was really strange because it would fluctuate up and down a couple of pounds every day.
Yeah.
And then one day I would get on and there would be like 5 or 7 pounds gone. It's like, well, how is it doing that?
Mm-hmm.
So I believe I lost somewhere in the neighborhood of 35 to 40 pounds over the whole thing. I'm under 200 pounds. When I got down to 210 pounds, I kept telling everybody, I'm no longer morbidly obese. I'm just obese. And I don't know. But healthy people, I'm going to say people with a healthy temple were like, that's great. And people who may be on various obese scales were like, that's great. Right? So don't hate the messenger. Everybody, if I can do it, anybody can do it. It does take planning and it does take support.
Yeah.
But you absolutely will kill yourself if you on day 12 or 14 or something, you say, I can't take it anymore. I need a double cheeseburger from McDonald's. Just go find where like an ambulance crew is parked and get out and eat it in front of them so that they can pick you up off the ground and start stabbing needles and IVs into you and rush you to the hospital, where you'll be on a liquid diet anyways.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Speaking of, how many cups of liquid a day did you take in?
A lot. And most of it was water, right? Everybody sees me drinking the big, 48 ounce. It is 48 ounces. 1,400 milliliters for all of you Canadian or other people. People in Canada, a lot of water, probably 2 to 4 or 5 of those a day, but a lot of tea. A lot of tea, 1 cup of coffee.
Mm-hmm.
And, your body adapts pretty quick to pull those micronutrients out of that stuff.
Yeah. And how did you determine, I guess, when you got the protein and stuff like that and you felt like you were cheating on the fast, I guess, what is the dividing line between what's considered liquid and fasting and then not like actual food?
That's right. That's a good question, because I know dietitians and physicians consider soup to be a liquid.
Mm-hmm.
Even if it's a hearty, dense stew, a soup that, you have to chew to swallow, they still consider that a liquid. I don't know where that dividing line is.
Yeah.
Personally, my opinion is if it isn't a clear liquid, it's probably more towards the solid scale. In fact, I've seen long ago, many decades past, that black coffee, your body treats black coffee like a solid. So that is really kind of interesting, and maybe that's how it works to flush out your liver and your gallbladder. Mm-hmm. Is your body says, okay, there's some of that black goo.
Yeah.
The natural black goo, not the stuff in the needle.
Right.
That in your body squishes all this stuff out and says, let's get the gunk out.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
How did you handle, did you get feelings of lethargy and grumpy moods?
Initially, yes. Okay. Initially, it was just exhausting. And the thing is, the temptation, your body's saying, because I'm in a house with other people. Mm-hmm. And, they're looking, they're like, gee, what am I going to eat? Oh, I'm going to eat this thing that smells wonderful while it's cooking.
Yeah.
In the first few days, your body's just screaming, eat something, anything. Look, your dog is happy eating that stuff, and it's crunchy too. But it takes some willpower to get through the first few days.
Mm-hmm.
But after that, the lethargy didn't stop, but it was dissipating. And as I continued in the fast, my energy levels went up, the lethargicness went down, and I was able to do things more normally. Yard work, various other chores. I still did the shopping for the other house members.
Mm-hmm. Did you still exercise?
I'm sorry?
Did you exercise?
Yes, I was exercising too.
Mm-hmm.
That which I could, which was primarily walking, other than having to get regular chores done.
Yeah.
And the thing is, typically about 2 to 4 o'clock in the afternoon, I would hit a wall and have to just lay down for 15 or 20 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes I would zonk. I would totally crash out for that 15 or 20 minutes, but then wake up and be back at the same higher energy level.
Mm-hmm.
And, a lot of people don't realize that the way we're designed, the way our temple is designed, is around a minimal eating per day, but also seasonally eating.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad you brought that up. Typically we would eat, 1 or 2 meals a day, like a breakfast, and a later meal, a dinner, maybe a snack here and there in between. But then we would go a long period of time, 12 to 14 hours. And during that period of time is when our body, our kidneys, our liver, our intestines are designed to process all that stuff out. Our blood carries nutrients to the extremities of the body and pulls back the toxins that have been, or the waste products that have been left behind. And then that gets, filtered out and pass it. But as Western society, Western diet has gone, we don't eat seasonally anymore. We just eat constantly, and our body doesn't get the chance to process these toxins. And it's linked to it's been linked to everything, any type of ailment, because our body takes these toxins and can no longer stick it just in the fat that we have, but it starts sticking at other places like our joints and in our myocardial area and around our lungs, our pericardial or peripneumonial area. Our renal sacs. And then those organs start having problems. So it's really an important issue.
Yeah.
As far as eating seasonally, that was something else that they were talking about with the reintroduction of food is, and I don't remember where this was, but our body is very adept at making enzymes to process one type of food at a time. So when we have, it's funny because when I was a picky child, I used to eat the same thing for a week or two, and then I would switch and eat the same thing for a week or two, which is a different same thing than the first same thing. And lo and behold, the well-balanced diet, where you need some of these vegetables and some of these fruits and some of this, animal product, it's all wrong. Our body needs that seasonal eating so it can say processed fruit for a long period of time, or processed vegetables for a long period of time, or processed dairy or dried meats or whatever for a long period of time. And then, maybe with a little of the other switched in, but it's pretty fascinating that we're set up to live with the seasons and the land.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like the person that created everything knew what they were doing.
It would seem that way.
I know, it's fascinating.
And then it makes you kind of wonder or not wonder about these GMO crops that they can grow just about any time, anywhere, under any conditions. Like that, yeah.
Yeah. And that, it's a bit of a rabbit trail, but it's funny you mentioned that, because when they started with that, their goal was to come up with a rice that could grow anywhere in the world in any season. Mm-hmm. And they could not do it. It was a massive failure, because in certain parts of, even in India is a big country, but mm-hmm. even in India, certain types of rice grow in the north in the mountains mm-hmm. than grows in the south. And there's no way to make one grow in the other place. And the same thing for the rices that are in Southeast Asia versus, middle of China, mm-hmm. or the rices they grow in Africa compared to what will grow in Southern Europe, and it's mm-hmm. or in the Americas. It's just amazing.
It is amazing. I had another question. You were talking about on the spiritual aspect of it. You'd mentioned that you understood how it made sense that angels ministered to Yeshua. I was wondering if you would elaborate on that.
Yes, and I believe what that is because look at me. Well, I'm not. He was probably in peak physical condition, right? He was eating clean his whole life. Right. He was eating clean his whole life. He didn't, feast and gorge mm-hmm. like a modern Westerner does. He was a carpenter, so he had a very physical livelihood, because that was probably much more like a general contractor mm-hmm. through our eyes. So very physical, constantly sweating out toxins and everything. So, but him fasting for fasting off food and water for 40 days, that, when the angels came to minister, I'm sure they must have done something very similar, start with liquids, mm-hmm. And then start with stuff that's easy to eat, applesauce or baby food or whatever. Yeah. You really have to be cautious about it and safe about it, because it's a delicate building we have. It's very mm-hmm. strange. The human body is very strange in that, people can sneeze and die. Yeah. They can sneeze, seriously. They can sneeze once and die. They rip their aorta off their heart or something and they bleed out internally. But then you have people that jump out of an airplane and their parachute fails to open and they bounce. They call it a bounce. And they survive with like a broken femur and 3 broken ribs. And it's just amazing, And
so to that point, who do you think would be a good candidate for a 40-day fast like this? Do you think personally it'd be for just anybody, or do you think there has to be some conditions met before you do it?
I believe conditions have to be met. That mm-hmm. It's a marathon. It's running a marathon. And people mm-hmm. don't just get up off their couch one day and say, I'm going to run a marathon today. No, you're going to die in, mm-hmm. 5 kilometers. So which is what, 3 miles, 3.2 miles or 3.5 miles. Mm-hmm. No, you start out walking a 5K, mm-hmm. and then then maybe walk a 10K, and then maybe run a 5K.
Mhm.
And you train for it, which, I probably wouldn't advise anybody to go about it the way I did, other than, get used to fasting for a couple of days, or intermittent fasting,
Mhm.
where you eat one meal a day. You can find lots of information on that. OMAD, one meal a day,
Mhm.
that get to a point where your body is used to. There's someone who I would like to get on here to talk about it, but they reached a point in their life where everything crumbled, and it was either pay the rent and feed the pets or feed myself. And they prayed about it, and what came to them is, okay, you're going to do starvation training. It was like, okay, I understand, Abba, Father. And lo and behold, it didn't kill them.
Mhm.
And shouldn't kill most of us, but it does take training and understanding. What I would do is get on absolutely the healthiest menu diet that you can
Yeah.
for months before you attempt a long fast.
Yeah.
And a long fast is 5 days, anything 5 days or over.
Mhm. Now, this isn't a question that could be answered really, but I'm wondering if, scripture talks a lot about fasting, and I'm wondering if we're missing something, like maybe there's something out there that explained it more and we just don't have access to that right now.
I believe that answer comes with fasting and praying. A lot of people talk about doing the Daniel fast, which I don't see that as a fast. That's really more of like a giving up fish for Lent type of thing. But fasting, the first time I did that long fast, I noticed changes in the spiritual world around me.
Mhm.
And I say the spiritual world around me, like, I've worked with, in the mental health community and also in state prison. And I was walking in the store, it was just in this like near constant state of prayer or meditation with our Father. And I could see someone coming towards me, and they were angry, and it looked like they wanted a confrontation. But as soon as they made eye contact, I saw fear wash over them, and they turned and went down a different aisle in the store. And, we had discussed this before, doing Torah portions a few years ago. And I can't remember who brought it up. I want to say Emily, but I don't know. But we were talking about we are the temple, right? But in the tabernacle, when they were told to sacrifice an animal, they burned the fat for a sweet, what was it, a sweet smelling savor to Yah. And what happens when we fast, we go into ketosis and burn our fat.
Mhm.
And is that the same thing? Are we putting our fat on the altar as an offering?
Mhm.
And he's more liable to hear us? I don't know. I mean, this was all supposition. It was all wondering about it.
There's also the fat that just comes with an overabundance of blessings that he warned about. When they entered the land and they became rich, they became fat, and he knew they would forget about him. So I wonder if it kind of all ties in. There's like shadows of the thing, and then there's the reality as well. I think it all just kind of goes together somehow.
And we do that. I mean, people like to complain, oh, well, there's this great income disparity between people in the United States or in the West,
Mm-hmm.
in reality, is if anybody is making something along the lines of $35,000 or $40,000 a year
Mm-hmm.
for a household, you're in the top 1% of the wealthiest people measured in dollars, on Earth.
Mm-hmm.
And I've mentioned that before. It just blows my mind. They'll
Yeah.
show some dude in the Middle East, in Pakistan or something. He has 500 sheep and 100 camels and 1,000 goats, and yet he only gets $50 when he takes his wool to market. And it's like he's those people that work for him are so poor, and it's just kind of so hypocritical, because biblically that's immensely wealthy.
Yeah. I was watching some videos a while back. I can't remember what it was, but there was this man in China, and he understood that most people would think he was poor because he doesn't make like cash money, but he also has some of the most beautiful rice fields, and that he's passed down through his family. And he developed this system where he can have multiple fields where the water drains down into each field for
Right.
rice paddy.
Mm-hmm.
But I was like, that really is rich. I mean, he knows how to work the land. He knows how to feed his family with or without money. Like as we see it. And to me, that having that ability and that knowledge and understanding of where he's at makes, to me, it's way more wealthy than working for a corporate and making a bunch of money, but not knowing really how to do anything if all that went away.
Right. And we've seen that, what was it? Hurricane Sandy that hit the northeast coast of the United States several years ago now.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they raided the stores until they were gone, and then immediately went to eating landscape bushes, not stuff that's growing berries or anything like that, but eating like the bark and leaves of stuff that's not supposed to be edible.
Right.
Don't even dig a hole in their backyard of their apartment complex to poop in, but pooping in their hallways and stuff. And it's like, how civilized are we, really? If that's, if everything fails, that's what we go to immediately.
Not really.
Okay. Let's see. There's something else too. I forget what it was though. Had something to do with fasting. The part of the fasting, your body will reset. Your body will say, "Okay, wait, hey, we're done. This is how we're supposed to work now," and everything relearns how it's supposed to work. It will do this in just a few days. You can reset your body. But what's most important, video I shared with a number of people recently, there was a dentist in the early 1900s who wondered why indigenous native populations didn't have cavities or misaligned teeth. So he investigated all over the world, all over Earth, and discovered that the people with the least health problems and the least teeth problems were people that ate the most minimally processed food.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't matter what the diet was. Didn't matter if it was vegan or vegetarian or almost all carnivorous. The key was minimal processing. And when you start adding more, when we buy processed food, they have to add stuff in to give it a shelf life. And that stuff is toxic to us.
Yeah.
Our food, whatever we eat, should rot in a few days. Usually. There are exceptions.
Yeah.
So,
it makes sense.
Any other questions, Ashley?
Not right now. Maybe on another episode of this. I'm sure I'll think of some stuff.
Okay. Well, I certainly appreciate it because I know I would have forgotten a lot of things. So thank you for your help. Everybody, if you have questions about doing a long fast, I'm happy to give you information. Put your question down below in the comments, and I will get to them ASAP. So thank you very much. Trust our Father, believe Him, obey Him, and it's going to turn out fine. I love you all. We'll talk very soon. Bye.
Bye.